After hours of spiraling through the void, Greg's shuttle crashed with a jarring thud onto unknown soil. Dust filled his vision as he groaned and scrambled out, brushing himself off and assessing his surroundings. Towering trees with sprawling, vibrant green canopies loomed above him, while unfamiliar bird-like creatures squawked from the shadows. He sighed, realizing he was stranded, probably light years away from any rescue. Survive first, panic later, he thought. A shadow moved in the corner of his eye. He froze, barely breathing. He'd expected strange alien creatures, sure, but not the ground-shaking footsteps approaching his way. Crouching low, he slipped behind a tree and peered around it cautiously. His jaw dropped when he saw the source of the tremors, 3 colossal women, each easily 10 feet tall, stepping through the trees with graceful strides. One of the women looked his way, her gaze sharp, and Greg immediately felt his heart rate jump. They were stunning. He couldn't deny that. And as they stepped closer, he realized just how powerful they looked, their skin bronzed and hair woven with exotic flowers and beads. "Look, sisters," one of them murmured with a smirk, her eyes gleaming as she examined him. "A small one. But he fits the prophecy." Prophecy? What on earth were they talking about? Greg was about to protest, but the tallest of the 3, her muscles rippling beneath her skin, took a step forward, her expression soft yet authoritative. You are the starseed bearer." Greg's brain scrambled to process the words. Starseed bearer? He managed a shaky laugh, raising his hands as if to wave off the confusion. "I think you're mistaken. I'm just Greg." But they weren't listening. The tallest one, who introduced herself as Zara, folded her arms and gazed down at him with a mixture of reverence and intensity. "The prophecy foretold a man would come from the stars to restore our people." "Restore?" he echoed, feeling a flush of warmth creep up his neck. How exactly?" Zara tilted her head, confused by his confusion. "We need your seed. You must fulfill the prophecy." It took Greg a full 5 seconds to absorb what she meant. Oh, wait, hold on a minute. That's not exactly something I can just hand over like a piece of candy. I'm not sure you're aware of how this works." The 3 women exchanged puzzled glances before Zara nodded gravely. "You are small and strange, yes. But if you are the starseed bearer, then you have everything we need. It's your destiny to help us. The prophecy cannot be wrong." Greg blinked, struggling to find the right words to explain. "Look, there's science involved. And it's not just something I can do on command. There are procedures, steps involved, maybe even a test tube." The 3rd woman, a bit younger and clearly just as curious, squatted down to peer at him at eye level. "We don't need tubes. We need you." Greg ran a hand over his face, trying to suppress his frustration and focus on survival. If he didn't want to end up as an accidental deity or prisoner, he'd have to tread carefully here. "Ladies, this whole starseed bearer thing, it's a little more complicated than it sounds." Zara's gaze softened slightly, as if she were trying to understand. "We've awaited your arrival for centuries. You are a gift from the cosmos. You don't have to be afraid of your purpose. We honor you." Somehow, that wasn't exactly reassuring. "It's not that I'm afraid," he said, choosing his words carefully. "It's just, I can't, restore your people with a snap of my fingers. There's usually a process, you know? Things take time." The younger one tilted her head, clearly perplexed. "How much time?" Greg coughed, trying to mask his discomfort. "Well, I mean, let's just say, in my world, there are clinics for this. Specialists, doctors, sometimes even paperwork." The 3 women looked at each other, their confusion deepening. "Here, we need no paperwork," Zara said, her tone final. "Only you. Now come. We must begin the ritual." Greg swallowed hard. "Ritual? No. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I really don't think a ritual is necessary. Maybe I can, take some samples and get back to you." "Samples?" one of them asked, her brows knitting together in bewilderment. "What are these samples? Explain." Greg's mind raced as he tried to find the right words. Samples, like, genetic material. Things you can analyze without me, being directly involved. Zara smiled, but it was a pitying sort of smile, as if she felt bad for his ignorance. There's no other way, Starseed Bearer. You must embrace your role fully. Greg realized he was running out of ways to stall. Maybe I can think of a middle ground, something that meets tradition halfway but also, doesn't involve too much personal involvement. Their brows furrowed again, but they gave a slight nod of approval. At least they were willing to listen. He took a deep breath, ready to continue with his new plan, even if it was just a way to buy time. Great. We'll just take things one step at a time. No rush, right? But as he looked up, he saw their faces brimming with anticipation. Zara placed a hand on his shoulder, squeezing it in a way that was both supportive and firm. We're ready to receive your gift. Begin the preparations. Greg forced a smile, wondering if he'd survive this wild misunderstanding. Greg's mind raced as he tried to think of a way out of this overwhelming situation. His attempts to explain basic biology, human social norms, or even the concept of personal boundaries had only been met with confusion and impatience. These towering women were relentless, certain he was their starseed bearer. And he could see that, for them, it wasn't a laughing matter, it was a genuine crisis. The Zairi tribe's future, their entire way of life, hinged on his gift. The gravity of it all weighed on him, yet he still couldn't bring himself to agree with their idea of fulfilling the prophecy. Zara, the tribe's leader, stepped closer, her face serious but warm. Greg, she said in a voice that resonated with authority and care. Our people have waited for this moment for generations. You are the one the stars promised. You have been chosen. You must understand how important this is for us. Greg forced a nod, trying to balance honesty with diplomacy. I get it, Zara. I really do. I just think, maybe there's a different way to go about this. Something more subtle? Subtle? Zara echoed, tilting her head. In our world, we don't waste time with such caution when survival is at stake. You, Starseed Bearer, are a gift to be celebrated, honored. There's no need to hesitate. Greg laughed nervously. Well, where I come from, we usually take things a bit slower. There's this thing called dating, where people get to know each other first. It's kind of important. The three women exchanged confused glances, clearly not grasping his point. Zara finally sighed and nodded, as if indulging a child's game. Then, if it is the custom of your world, we will date with you, as you say. But only briefly. Our people's time grows short. Greg gave them a half-hearted smile. Right. We'll just take it step by step. He thought he'd bought himself some time, a little breathing room, but he could see the glimmer of impatience in their eyes. What does this date involve? Asked Lyra, the youngest of the three, her curiosity piqued. Well, it's a little bit of conversation, some time together, maybe sharing stories? He said, searching for ideas that wouldn't make things worse. Zara nodded and gestured for him to follow. They led him to an open area in the heart of their village, where the other tribe members watched with fascination and awe. Greg could feel their eyes on him, reverent yet expectant, as if he were some sort of savior from ancient legends. Despite the awkwardness, he tried to see the situation from their perspective. They weren't trying to pressure him, necessarily, they were just desperate. Once they settled in a circle around a large, crackling fire, Zara broke the silence. Tell us of your world, Starseed Bearer. Tell us about the place you call Earth. Relieved to be on safer ground, Greg launched into stories about his planet, describing oceans, mountains, and cities that stretched into the sky. He talked about the thrill of flight, the taste of rain, and even the simple joy of watching a sunrise. The giantesses listened intently, their eyes widening with wonder and awe. To them, it was like hearing tales of a mythical realm. And you have many others like you? Lyra asked, clearly enchanted. Greg smiled. Yeah, plenty. Billions, in fact. But it's not all peaceful. There's a lot of, conflict, too. He hesitated, not wanting to ruin the allure. But then he noticed that his words didn't diminish their awe. They seemed to admire Earth's complexity, its resilience. Zara leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. You are from a world of strength and survival. You are suited to aid us. She looked around, addressing the others. This is a sign. Our time of waiting is over. Greg's stomach flipped as the fire crackled between them. He thought he'd won himself a little more time, but Zara's urgency cut through the conversation like a blade. Tomorrow, the ritual will begin, Zara announced. You have shared your stories, and we have learned from you. Now it is time for you to fulfill your purpose. Greg scrambled for an excuse, anything that might delay the inevitable. Wait, hold on, tomorrow? We just started this whole dating thing. Back on Earth, that can take weeks, months, even years. Zara seemed genuinely puzzled. Time is a luxury we do not have. Our need is immediate, and you are here. This is fate, is it not? Greg felt his back against a figurative wall. Right, but I think I need more preparation. I mean, the whole prophecy thing is new to me too. Maybe we need to run through it a few more times. Practice makes perfect, right? A murmur of agreement spread through the women, and for a moment he felt relief. But Zara's gaze sharpened. Then practice we shall, she said with a determined smile. Greg swallowed hard. This was getting out of hand, and he was running out of clever lines to buy more time. He was starting to realize that for the Zairi tribe, there was no real understanding of personal hesitation or polite refusals. They simply saw their survival in him, and nothing else. Lyra, sensing his tension, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Do not fear, Starseed Bearer. You carry our future. And we will honor you in return. We will be gentle. Gentle. Greg laughed nervously, not entirely reassured. His mind churned for a new strategy, something that might give him a way to navigate this strange situation without offending them or ending up overwhelmed. Perhaps, he ventured, we can start small. There's no need to rush into things. Maybe we can, try a little ritual where I teach you more about my world's, customs. Zara looked intrigued but skeptical. And this will help you prepare? Yes, he said a bit too quickly. Yes, exactly. It's vital to the process. It's an Earth thing, rituals upon rituals. We're big on tradition. To his relief, Zara nodded thoughtfully. Then tomorrow, we shall begin with this Earth custom. We are honored to learn from the Starseed Bearer's ways. Greg released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Great. Wonderful. I'll see you tomorrow then. First light? Zara smiled warmly. First light. Greg woke at dawn, greeted by the eager faces of the Zairi tribe gathered outside his shelter. He barely had time to clear his head before Zara motioned him over with a determined look in her eye, clearly ready to begin the so-called Earth ritual he'd promised them. The tribe had accepted his delay tactic without question, but now he had to think fast to keep this idea going for as long as possible. Morning, Greg managed, looking around at the expectant faces. So today we'll start with, patience rituals. It's a vital part of Earth customs. Zara raised an eyebrow. Patience? But our need is urgent. Right, but trust me, patience is key, Greg said, nodding earnestly. It's a process that ensures everything goes smoothly. Zara considered this, then nodded. Very well, Starseed Bearer. Let us in your Earth ritual of patience. Greg took a deep breath, grasping at any idea he could muster to stall further. All right. The first step is deep breathing. Humans find it helps clear the mind. To his relief, the giantesses followed his lead as he exaggerated his breaths, hoping to relax and slow things down. A chorus of deep inhalations filled the air as the Zairi closed their eyes, practicing the bizarre ritual with the utmost sincerity. Good. Now, visualization, he continued. Imagine a place of calm, somewhere peaceful. Greg looked around, noting their expressions of focus. Now picture yourself achieving, whatever it is you most desire. Lyra's face lit up, her eyes still closed. I see it, Starseed Bearer! I see our tribe flourishing once more, with children's laughter echoing through the trees. Zara nodded approvingly, though Greg could sense she was still eager for results. And now? She prompted. Now we wait, Greg stammered. Patience is about learning to, exist in the present without demanding too much. The women exchanged puzzled glances, clearly struggling to understand how patience could be part of a necessary ritual. For them, action was survival. This sitting still was as foreign as he was. But Greg pressed on, trying to find other ways to stall. Maybe I should show you an Earth tradition that's more interactive, he suggested after a long pause. It's called, conversation circles. A sacred bonding ritual. What does this involve? Zara asked, clearly intrigued by his endless human customs. Well, it's simple. Each person shares something personal, and others listen. It builds, connection and trust, Greg explained, crossing his fingers that this might extend his reprieve. The Dziri arranged themselves into a circle, their large frames casting shadows in the morning light as they sat expectantly. Greg started off with a harmless anecdote about his favorite food, which he tried to make sound fascinating. As he spoke, the giantesses listened intently, hanging on his every word as if this knowledge of pizza and burgers would somehow save their tribe. After he finished, Lyra eagerly shared her own tale, a memory of a rare flower she once found deep in the jungle. Greg listened, nodding thoughtfully, even though he felt no closer to finding a real way out of his situation. Still, he was relieved the conversation circle was working. If he could keep them talking, he could maybe buy himself a few more days. Zara's turn came, and she looked at him intently as she spoke. Our people have struggled through droughts, storms, and attacks from beasts. We have lost so much, but we've survived because of our will. And now you are here, the one meant to save us. Greg gulped, unsure how to respond to the weight of her words. I'm honored, Zara. Really. I think we need to respect the process. Trust me, Earth customs work wonders when it comes to, life events. Zara's brow furrowed. But you do understand that we're not asking for patience alone, Greg. We need action. Our people need results. The tone shift was clear, and Greg felt the growing pressure settle in his chest. These women weren't simply indulging him. They were counting on him in ways he hadn't grasped. He realized he couldn't keep stalling forever. At some point, he'd have to find a real solution to help them, or face the consequences. Desperate for another idea, he said. Then how about a strength ritual? On Earth, we often prove our strength to gain respect in a tribe. The giantesses brightened, excited by the prospect. A strength ritual! Lyra exclaimed, clapping her hands. We Dziri understand strength. It is part of us. Greg internally sighed with relief as the women guided him to a nearby clearing. He hadn't quite thought through what a strength ritual would entail, but he figured anything physical could give him a bit more time before facing the prophecy head-on. All right, he said, trying to sound confident. Let's start with, lifting something heavy. That's usually how Earth strength rituals work. Zara nodded and gestured to a fallen tree nearby, a massive thing even by her standards. Lift this, she said, clearly expecting him to give it his best effort. Greg stared at the enormous trunk, aware he'd probably just doomed himself with his own suggestion. But he had to try something. With a deep breath, he wrapped his arms around the bark, gave a dramatic grunt, and barely managed to lift one end an inch off the ground before it fell back with a loud thud. He looked up, panting, to see the amused smiles of the Dziri. On Earth, he panted. It's, more about the effort than the result. It's symbolic strength. Lyra chuckled, reaching down to lift the entire tree with ease and setting it aside like it weighed nothing. Symbolic strength, she repeated, shaking her head with an amused smile. Well, maybe you can show me your strength next? Greg suggested, grateful for anything to keep the attention off his own lackluster attempt. He watched as Zara and Lyra displayed feats of power, lifting stones and uprooting small trees with ease. Greg clapped and cheered, encouraging them while he tried to come up with his next move. After an hour of their strength ritual, Zara finally approached him, more resolved than ever. Enough symbols and rituals, Starseed Bearer. The prophecy calls for action. Our people have waited long, and we need you to complete your purpose. Greg's mind raced, out of excuses, out of tricks. Maybe we need a ceremony preparation day? He blurted, hoping they'd by one last attempt to stall. Zara's gaze softened as she nodded, her tone surprisingly gentle. If that is what it takes to ensure your readiness, we will honor this final request. But know that tomorrow, there will be no more rituals. Greg nodded, his heart pounding. He had one more day, one last chance to figure something out. He walked away, feeling the weight of their hope and expectation pressing down on him, knowing he'd have to face the prophecy, one way or another, when the sun rose again. Greg woke the next morning with a sense of dread he couldn't shake off. The events of the previous days had all led to this moment, his final confrontation with the prophecy, the Xyrius expectations hanging heavy in the air. His mind raced, his thoughts scrambled for any possible escape route. But there was no more time for rituals, no more pretending. It was the day they would hold him to his word, and Greg had no idea how he was going to get out of this. The tribe was already gathering by the clearing where they performed their rituals. Zara stood at the forefront, her expression serious. The other women were poised, waiting for him, their eyes filled with a mixture of anticipation and impatience. They had given him ample time to prepare himself, to prove his worth, but now there was no more space for negotiation or delay. Greg had to face them head-on. "You're ready, Starseed Bearer?" Zara asked, her voice low, intense. The calm before the storm. Greg wiped his palms on his pants, trying to steady his nerves. "Yeah, sure," he said, trying to muster what little confidence he had left. "I'm ready. But first, let's make sure everything is clear. I mean, I don't want anyone getting the wrong idea here." He chuckled nervously, hoping to deflect the weight of the situation with humor. Zara didn't smile. "You are the prophesied one. You came from the stars. Now you must fulfill your purpose, as the legend demands. There is no room for misunderstandings." Her words sent a chill down Greg's spine. This was it. The moment he'd been dreading and somehow anticipating. But he couldn't give up now. Not after everything. He had to play this carefully, keep up the facade, buy himself more time, somehow. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Okay. So, let's go over this one last time," he began, trying to sound confident. "I'm the Starseed Bearer, the one who's supposed to save your people. But it's not exactly as simple as just, fulfilling the prophecy. There's a lot of complexities." Zara narrowed her eyes. "Explain," she said, her voice icy but curious. Greg held up his hands, gesturing in a calm manner. "Right, so Earth's traditions, they're all about building a connection, right? I'm not just some magical solution that suddenly appears and, poof, everything's fixed. I'm a human, and humans believe in, bonding and understanding each other before any major steps." Zara tilted her head. "You are stalling." No, Greg protested, trying to find the right words. "I'm just saying that, we have to respect each other first. Before anything happens, there needs to be mutual understanding, a foundation built on trust. And without that, things, they don't go the way you want." Zara raised an eyebrow, clearly not satisfied. "And you think this foundation is enough to restore our people?" Greg hesitated. "I think it's the only way to truly move forward. You don't want some half-hearted solution. You need someone who's ready to commit, someone who's fully involved. And that means, we need to talk. Get to know each other, right?" Zara stood silent for a moment, her piercing gaze never leaving Greg. Then, after a long pause, she spoke again. "If this is truly necessary for our survival, then we will listen to your request. But know this, time is no longer on our side. The prophecy says we must act now." Greg's stomach churned, but he nodded. Okay, so how about this? Let's have a little, getting to know you session, right? We'll talk, we'll share stories, really connect. We can start with, Earth traditions, things that will make us closer. Zara was quiet, but she gave a small nod. If this is what you require, we will do as you ask. But it will not delay the inevitable. We must proceed soon. The tribe gathered around them, eager to see what this human ritual would entail. Greg felt the weight of their eyes on him, and for a moment, he considered running. But there was no escape now, not without dire consequences. So, he stood his ground. All right, he said, forcing a smile. So, one tradition we have on Earth is called sharing a personal story. It helps people understand each other better. Lyra, ever eager, spoke first. I will share. I was born under the twin moons, and as a child I had to face a great trial. I climbed the highest peak in our lands, a place where no Zairi had ventured in generations. I was determined to prove myself. After many days I reached the summit and brought back the sacred blossom. It was a gift to my tribe, a symbol of strength. Greg nodded, genuinely impressed despite himself. That's incredible. You really must be strong. Zara, sensing the moment had arrived for her, stepped forward. I will share as well, she said, her voice filled with authority. When I was young, I was chosen to lead the tribe's defense against a pack of great predators that threatened our lands. It was a battle of endurance and wit, and I succeeded where others failed. This was the moment I knew my destiny was to lead, to guide my people. Greg took it all in. Their stories were powerful, inspiring even. And in that moment, he realized something. These women weren't asking for some grand gesture. They wanted partnership, respect, someone to be there with them, not just for their reproductive needs, but for the survival of their entire society. It was becoming clearer now. Greg wasn't just a tool for them to use. The prophecy had meaning to them, yes, but it was about more than just fulfilling a biological need. It was about restoring balance, continuity, and connection. Something that could only happen through mutual effort. I hear you, Greg said, his voice a little more sincere now. I do. But if we're going to do this, if I'm really going to be part of your future, we need to take it one step at a time. We need trust. We need... And time? Zara interrupted sharply. We no longer have time, Starseed Bearer. The crisis grows each day. Greg swallowed hard. All right, I get it. But all I'm asking is for a little more time. So give me a chance, just one, to prove that this can work, together. I'll commit, I swear it, but let's build something real. Zara eyed him carefully, then nodded. We will give you one more day, human. After that we move forward. You either fulfill the prophecy, or we will find another way. Greg nodded, heart pounding in his chest. One more day. That was all he had to figure out how to turn this around. To find a way to truly help the Zairi tribe, and maybe, just maybe, make it off this planet in one piece.